Welcome to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram's Immigration News Show. We would like to thank attorney Chris M. Ingram and staff at the law offices of Chris M. Ingram for their hard work in preparing the research for this show, which draws on a wide variety of news sources from both sides of the aisle, providing a balanced view. Attorney Ingram is also a vocal advocate for the rights and protection of immigration applicants, although our coverage is designed to be nonpartisan. Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our channel. We're also on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Reddit, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. You can also visit our website on www.breakthroughusa.com. We'd love to see you there. Okay, let's dive in. So our mission today really is to unpack this really complex tension we're seeing in U.S. immigration right now. We're looking at the push and pull, right, between, really stringent enforcement, tough policies versus this undeniable need for immigrant labor. And also that sort of historical engine of immigrant entrepreneurship that's always been part of the American story.
Right. It's a constant theme.
Yeah, and our legal research team, they've pulled together just a ton of information. Everything from big administrative moves, those contentious court cases.
All the way down to the economic impacts.
Exactly. The real, sometimes kind of devastating effects people are feeling on the ground, across different industries.
And if you zoom out a bit, what's really striking, I think, about where we are now is you're seeing this fundamental clash. It's political will bumping right up against economic reality.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you've got these intensified operations, big visa reforms, like the ones from the current administration. They're trying to hit specific targets, border security, the America First goals.
Okay.
But then on the other side, you have these really obvious macroeconomic weak spots. I mean, serious, persistent labor shortages.
Right. We keep hearing about those.
In critical areas. Healthcare, construction, specialized tech.
Yeah.
It's across the board. So the real question our research pushes us to ask is this: do these really aggressive, often very expensive enforcement measures, do they end up being counterproductive?
Like self-inflicted wounds.
Exactly. Do they actually stifle the innovation and the economic energy the U.S. kind of desperately needs right now?
That really sets the stage perfectly for our deep dive today. And I think the best place to start is to ground this whole discussion in, well, it's one of the most amazing business stories in recent memory. It's resilience personified. We're talking about Hamdi Ulukaya, the Turkish immigrant who basically took a dead factory and turned it into Chobani yogurt, a multi-billion-dollar empire.
Yeah.
His story is just such a powerful example in our research of that immigrant perseverance and, crucially, the huge economic payoff it can have.
It's the perfect anchor, you're right. And Ulukaya's background is so tied to, the land, traditional ways. He was born in 1972, grew up in a Kurdish family.
Turkey.
Eastern Turkey, yeah. They were nomadic dairy farmers up in the mountains. So his childhood was literally spent making cheese, herding sheep.
Wow.
And that traditional sort of community-focused background, you really see it later reflected in the values that define Chobani. Quality ingredients, taking care of employees.
But it's interesting, his initial goal wasn't conquering the American yogurt aisle, was it?
Not at all.
He came here in the 90s, our research shows, more to escape political tensions back home, and he was focused on getting an education. Came in on a student visa, actually.
That's such a key detail, because he used one of those pathways, the student visa, that often comes under so much scrutiny today.
Right.
And as he put it himself, I came here with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. Classic immigrant story. Started learning English at SUNY Adirondack, then political science up at Albany.
And his first business wasn't yogurt.
No, it was a small feta cheese factory. Kind of struggling, actually, up in Fulton County, New York.
Yeah.
It drew on his family's know-how, sure, but it wasn't really built for the American market, not scalable.
Okay, so here's where the story takes that incredible turn. It wasn't some genius market analysis, was it? It was junk mail.
Literally junk mail. In 2005, he spots this ad for a closed-down craft yogurt plant. New Berlin, upstate New York, totally shuttered, for sale, apparently in terrible shape.
And he decides to buy it.
That's the audacious part. I mean, think about it. Limited money, no formal business degree, but he manages to get this crucial $1 million loan.
$1 million?
Yeah, split between a local bank and the Small Business Administration, the SBA. Huge personal risks, obviously. But that was enough to buy the place and start trying to fix it up.
And there was a key piece of equipment involved too, right?
Absolutely vital. He spent just $50,000 on a used milk separator he found in Wisconsin.
50 grand.
Yeah. And that machine was everything. Because American yogurt back then, it wasn't strained like Greek yogurt, that thickness, that creaminess. It came from that straining process, so that cheap secondhand machine. It became the foundation for a billion-dollar product line.
Incredible. And the name, Chobani. It ties right back to his roots.
Directly. It's a variation of the Turkish word soban, which means shepherd. So you see his personal history, his culture, becoming this really powerful part of the brand identity.
So Chobani launches in 2007, but they didn't have a big marketing budget.
No money for traditional ads at all. So their success story is also a masterclass in, like, guerrilla marketing. They couldn't afford those crazy slotting fees stores charge just to get shelf space.
Right, those can be astronomical.
So Ulukaya's team had to think differently. They did tons of in-store sampling nonstop. And get this, for smaller stores, they actually paid them in yogurt instead of cash just to get a foot in the door.
Paid them in yogurt. That's brilliant.
It was about getting creative. And the direct engagement was key too, wasn't it?
Yeah, they skipped the big ad agencies and went straight to the people.
Totally. Heavy focus on social media, which was still pretty new then. Facebook, Twitter, reaching out to food bloggers, just being direct, transparent, and it worked. People were looking for healthier options, less processed stuff, and Chobani just hit that nerve.
The results were just...
It's explosive.
Beyond explosive. They weren't just growing, they were fundamentally changing the market. Within 5 years, Chobani blows past $1 billion in annual sales.
$1 billion.
In 5 years.
Yeah. And think about this. Greek yogurt was less than 1% of the U.S. yogurt market when they started. Less than 1%. They pushed to 50% of the entire market share.
That's market transformation, just incredible power.
And that kind of growth means you need more space. The New York plant was maxed out fast, so they built that huge second facility out in Twin Falls, Idaho.
Right, I remember reading about that massive investment.
Huge. Employs over 1,000 people today. And the estimates are it's pumped something like $2 billion into that regional economy. Jobs, taxes, buying local milk. It's a massive footprint.
And they're still growing, acquiring La Colombe coffee just last year.
Right, diversifying, solidifying their spot in the broader food and beverage world.
But it's not just the business numbers, is it? Ulukaya's legacy is really becoming defined by this employee-first approach, his refugee advocacy. It kind of shifts the whole definition of corporate success.
That's where you see the deeper societal impact, I think. Chobani put in place things that were, frankly, industry-leading. Profit sharing for everybody, paid parental leave, wages way above minimum wage for their, 3,000 plus workers now?
Yeah.
And then, seeing the global refugee crisis, he starts the Tent Partnership for Refugees in 2016. And this isn't just talk. It's an organization that actively gets companies, hundreds of them now, over 400 worldwide, to actually commit to hiring and integrating refugees into their businesses.
And Chobani walks the walk itself. Our research said something like 30% of their own workforce are immigrants or refugees.
That's right. And they provide real support translators on site, help with transportation, job training. It's practical stuff.
There's that quote from him, "I never give a hand up. It was just a job." Speaks to dignity, right?
Exactly. Dignity and empowerment. And the 10 initiatives, they go beyond just finding someone a job. They talk about creating these magical connections, like matching displaced LGBTQ folks with professional mentors, or pairing Afghan refugees with U.S. veterans to help them navigate the workforce here. It's about leveraging experience, building networks.
Which ultimately strengthens the business too, right? A diverse, resilient workforce.
Absolutely. It's smart business and good social policy.
So let's tie this amazing story back to the policy side we're digging into. Our legal team, reflecting on this research, really emphasized Ulukaya's journey as just concrete proof, proof of the incredible value you unlock when talented people have accessible ways into the system.
A humane system creates huge benefits. And that's not just anecdotal. It's backed up by tons of academic work. Researchers like Portis and Lee, they've shown over and over how immigrant entrepreneurs revitalize industries, generate billions for the economy. They bring what's called cultural capitals, unique skills, different perspectives, networks. And that directly fuels innovation and creates jobs here.
So Ulukaya isn't some random outlier. He's proof of concept.
He is. But his success really throws down a challenge, doesn't it? It makes you ask, how many potential Ulukayas are we blocking right now with the very policies we're about to discuss?
That is the perfect transition, because now we have to shift gears, moving from that story of incredible achievement to the much harsher reality of increased immigration enforcement we're seeing now in major U.S. cities.
Right.
These recent intensified ICE operations really show that collision point where aggressive security tactics meet immediate economic pain and, frankly, deep community disruption.
USCIS is cracking down on visa fraud, and even approved cases are being revoked.
Why was my visa denied? USCIS revoked my approval. At the law offices of Chris M. Ingram, we handle every detail with care. Every form, every fact, every time.
So join us for a free consultation. We do things the right way. Let us take care of you.
Yeah, the research really zoned in on Operation Midway Blitz. That was early October 2025. A major ramp-up of ICE activity in cities like Chicago, Portland, D.C.
And the scale was significant. Over 1,000 arrests just in Chicago in a short period.
That's right. And the reports coming out of those operations were pretty intense and definitely polarizing. You mentioned CNN reporting on a raid in Chicago's South Shore.
Involving air assaults, shattered windows, pulling families out of homes overnight, kids detained, parents zip-tied, stark images.
Very stark. And while the official line from DHS was always about targeting dangerous criminal illegal aliens, the actual data our researchers gathered tells a slightly different story.
How so?
Well, it showed that for fiscal year 2025, over 75% of the people ICE booked had no serious criminal convictions. Their main offense was an immigration violation or maybe a minor traffic ticket.
75%.
Yeah. So that very wide net approach, that's what fuels the intense criticism about overreach, about the human cost being inflicted.
And that tension boiled over into public clashes, didn't it? We saw those images of veterans like Darren Hertzberg II in Portland actually confronting federal agents during protests.
Right. And the legal front got really heated too, especially around the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act.
From 1798, that's archaic legislation.
Extremely archaic.
Yeah.
It was originally meant for wartime, allowing the president to detain or deport citizens of hostile nations. But they started using it in March 2025 against members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
Which is a criminal organization, not a nation we're at war with.
Exactly. So that's a novel and very controversial legal interpretation. A federal appeals court actually stepped in initially, put a halt on using it for Venezuelan nationals, questioning the administration's authority.
But the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court lifted that temporary injunction. So enforcement could continue while the main legal challenge works its way through the courts. It's still very much contested.
And that blurring of lines using these tactics is why people bring up the Posse Comitatus Act. Remind us why that's relevant here.
So Posse Comitatus generally bars the use of the U.S. military for domestic law enforcement. Critics look at these highly militarized tactics, the agencies involved sometimes blurring the lines between federal law enforcement like ICE and military-style operations, and they argue it violates the spirit of Posse Comitatus.
Even if it's not technically the Army doing it.
Right. And this argument gets stronger when you see courts having to step in like they did in Chicago, restricting the use of riot weapons against protesters, or blocking state National Guard deployments in Oregon that were seen as excessive.
Okay, so let's pivot now to the economic side of this, because these enforcement actions seem to create this paradox. They're happening at the exact same time we have severe labor shortages.
Right. It's like pouring fuel on a fire. The research points to Labor Department data showing construction and hospitality are just getting hammered. Vacancy rates over 15% in some cases.
15% vacancy, that's crippling for a business.
Absolutely. And those shortages directly feed into inflation, into supply chain problems. The research strongly suggests that actively shrinking the immigrant labor pool like this actually undermines U.S. economic growth.
There is a specific projection mentioned. Losing work authorizations, leading to a rise in food prices.
Yeah, a really stark projection. The loss of over 500,000 work authorizations earlier in the year. Economists projected that could push food prices up by 14.5% by 2028.
14.5%. Where does that hit hardest?
Primarily agriculture and food processing. Those sectors rely massively on immigrant labor, both documented and undocumented, for everything from harvesting crops to packing meat to driving trucks.
So if you suddenly lose 500,000 workers?
Wages have to shoot up to attract native workers, which often doesn't happen quickly, or production just drops, or both. And those costs, they get passed straight to you and me at the grocery store.
Plus, there's the local damage.
Huge collateral damage. These raids hurt local businesses, especially immigrant-owned ones. They shrink the tax base municipalities rely on. And, ironically, they cost billions every year in federal enforcement spending. Taxpayer money.
So it really forces that question. If the goal is national security, are these tactics accidentally making us less secure economically by creating these huge workforce gaps?
Based on the data, it certainly looks like a net economic negative. Now, public reaction? Predictably, it falls along those partisan lines we always see.
Right. Republicans generally supporting the operations for security, protecting jobs. Democrats condemning the methods, the family separations, the fear.
Standard divide. But the cultural response our research picked up on was pretty unique this time.
The social media challenge.
Yeah. The hashtag Show Me Your Hellhole challenge.
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel kicked it off. It was brilliant satire, really.
How did it work?
He basically dared people to film their cities to push back against the rhetoric calling these places war-torn hellholes. So you got flooded with videos of just normal, peaceful neighborhoods, people having fun, dancing unicorns, that kind of thing. And then Governor Pritzker of Illinois even did this mock report from war-torn Chicago on Kimmel's show. It was basically a mass trolling of the political narrative.
That's pretty memorable. So bringing it all together, what's the conclusion from groups like the Migration Policy Institute or UC Davis who study this?
Their findings are pretty clear-cut. Enforcement without reform is counterproductive. If you crack down hard without creating workable legal pathways that address actual labor demand, you just create these painful economic holes.
And hurt GDP.
Immigrants, regardless of status, they boost productivity in sectors that are often overlooked. Pushing them out creates a vacuum that the native workforce often can't or frankly won't fill quickly.
And our returnees' perspective.
They really emphasize the need for balance. Yes, laws need enforcing, but the human cost on families, on communities, demands an ethical approach. Policies that respect dignity aren't just, the right thing to do. They're economically smarter in the long run.
Okay, so we've covered the physical enforcement aspect. Now let's shift focus completely to the policy side, specifically affecting high-skilled workers. I'm talking about that dramatic, sudden H-1B fee.
Yeah, that was a genuine policy shockwave. Came down September 19th, 2025. The administration signed a proclamation, boom, a $100,000 one-time fee on new H-1B petitions, effective almost right away.
$100,000. I mean, that's not just tweaking a fee. That is a fundamental barrier. You said it's like 60 times the old range.
Easily. The old fees were usually somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000, depending on the company size. This just completely changes the game, especially for smaller companies, for startups trying to compete for global talent.
What was the official justification for such a massive hike?
The stated reason, fitting that America First theme, was systemic abuse of the program. The argument was that companies use it to undercut American wages and ship tech jobs overseas. The administration also talked about weighting the H-1B lottery differently, trying to prioritize people with higher skills and much higher salary offers, aiming to weed out lower-paid roles.
Were there any exceptions, any carve-outs to stop the whole thing grinding to a halt?
There were some important ones. The fee doesn't apply to extensions for people already here on H-1Bs. Universities are exempt, nonprofit research groups, government bodies too.
Okay.
And there's this vague case-by-case national interest waiver, but it's rarely used. But for your average tech company or engineering firm wanting to hire a new skilled worker from abroad, that $100,000 fee became the cost of entry.
Unsurprisingly, the backlash was immediate. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce jumped right in. What's their legal argument against this? How can they challenge a fee set by the administration?
So the Chamber, along with this really powerful coalition, unions, universities, healthcare groups, they filed suit arguing the whole proclamation was unlawful. They said it lacked a statutory basis, meaning they're arguing the president basically overstepped the authority Congress gave him in the Immigration and Nationality Act. Congress lets the executive branch adjust certain user fees, mostly to cover the costs of processing applications.
Right, administrative costs.
Exactly. But the Chamber's argument is that $100,000 is so incredibly high, so disproportionate, that it's not a fee anymore. It's effectively a tax or a barrier designed to stop people using the program. And only Congress has the power to levy taxes or fundamentally change program eligibility like that.
That makes sense. But let me push back a bit here. Isn't there some truth to the administration's point about abuse? Even with rules like paying the prevailing wage, haven't we still seen jobs outsourced?
That's the absolute core of the policy fight. Our attorneys pointed out in the research that, legally speaking, the prevailing wage rule was supposed to be the main safeguard. Employers have to pay H-1B workers at least the local standard for that job.
To prevent cheap labor undercutting.
Right. But critics argue that rule has loopholes. How do you define prevailing wage? They say companies often hire at the lowest possible wage allowed in that bracket and maybe use the high cost and complexity of the H-1B process itself as leverage over the workers.
I see.
So the $100,000 fee is like the administration's nuclear option to stop that perceived abuse layered on top of the existing checks.
And this policy didn't just cause waves domestically, it hit internationally, especially with India.
Oh, massively. Indian nationals make up, around 74% of all H-1B holders, and they got 71% of the approvals last year. So this fee hit them hardest.
And relations were already a bit tense.
Yeah, the U.S. had put a 50% levy on some Indian exports earlier in the year. So this H-1B fee just added fuel to the fire. India's foreign ministry came out strong, warning about humanitarian consequences, disrupting lives and careers.
Some pretty strong language was used, wasn't there?
There was. Some Indian officials basically suggested the U.S. was acting out of insecurity, saying things like, the U.S. is afraid of our talent. It got quite pointed.
Which suggests the U.S. might be using, or perceived as using, skilled immigration policy almost like a diplomatic weapon. Intentionally or not.
It certainly reads that way to other countries.
You finally got your family together on a H-1B. Your American dream begins. Your employer files for your EB-2 green card, but the wait is over 11 years. As the years go by, frustration grows, and now the company is talking about layoffs. This could be the end of your American dream. You search for help, but luckily, you land on BreakthroughUSA.com. They listen, reassured you, and built your EB-1 case with precision. Then one day, a notification buzzes, EB-1 approved. With your EB-1 green card, your entire family can breathe.
I have got my visa. I got my visa.
That's why the law offices of Chris M. Ingram is trusted. Your future shouldn't wait. Let's talk EB-1.
What are the next steps?
Need help with your visa? Book your free consultation now at www.breakthroughUSA.com and let us take care of you.
And meanwhile, while the U.S. puts up these barriers, our global competitors are thinking, great, opportunity for us.
Right, a brain drain concern.
The alarm bells are ringing loud and clear. Other countries are actively positioning themselves. Germany announced plans to boost its skilled worker visas way up to $90,000 a year, promising faster processing.
And China?
China's getting aggressive too. They launched a new K visa aimed squarely at top STEM graduates from around the world, sometimes even without needing a job offer first. They're rolling out the red carpet for the very talent the U.S. is making it harder and more expensive to hire.
And the economic forecast started reflecting this worry immediately.
Instantly. Berenberg, the German investment bank, cut its 2025 U.S. growth forecast from 2% down to 1.5% right after the announcement. J.P. Morgan Chase estimated the U.S. could lose about 5,500 work permits every month.
How does that break down by sector, beyond just general tech jobs?
Well, it's a direct threat to cutting-edge fields like AI, biotech, where the global race for talent is fiercest. But the impact is just as serious in essential services.
Like healthcare.
Exactly. The American Medical Association slammed the fee. They pointed out how much the U.S. relies on foreign-born doctors, especially in rural areas or underserved communities. States like Iowa, North Dakota, West Virginia, they have the highest percentages of doctors on H-1Bs or similar visas.
So if this fee drives them away,
you're making existing healthcare shortages even worse. It connects right back to the problems exacerbated by the ICE raids workforce gaps in critical areas.
And the academic research seems to back up these concerns about innovation.
Absolutely. Research from Harvard Business School, Dr. William Kerr, shows H-1B workers are way overrepresented when it comes to innovation, getting patents. His work suggests really tight restrictions could seriously slow down tech output, maybe even cut it in half.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sari Pekala Kerr at Wellesley, her research shows how much startups suffer from these kinds of visa caps. They rely heavily on immigrant founders and specialized talent to get off the ground and scale up fast.
Okay, so here's the provocative question emerging from this story. If the courts do strike down this $100,000 fee, if they agree the administration went too far, could this whole episode force a much-needed, deeper rethink about how the U.S. uses visa policy? Not just for economics, but as a diplomatic tool, too.
It really could. The fallout with India, a major strategic partner, proved immigration policy carries huge geopolitical weight. If the courts rule against the fee, it sends a message that you can't just dictate this kind of massive change by executive order if the legal basis isn't there.
Which might push things back towards Congress?
It might pressure future administrations to seek legislative fixes, or at least to craft policies that are actually designed to attract the best global talent effectively, without also shooting ourselves in the foot economically and alienating allies.
That leads us perfectly into our final story today, which actually offers a bit of a counterbalance to all this restriction. We're talking about the Supreme Court affirming work rights for H-4 spouses.
Yes, a really important piece of judicial stability amidst all the turbulence. This happened October 14th, 2025. The Supreme Court basically said no thanks to reviewing the 2015 rule.
They declined certiorari.
Exactly, which means the rule stands. This rule allows H-4 visa holders who are spouses of H-1B workers to get work permits, EADs.
And this disproportionately affects
Mostly highly educated women, predominantly from India, often with backgrounds in STEM fields themselves. So this decision upholds their right to work.
Remind us why that 2015 rule was created in the first place. What problem was it trying to solve?
It was basically an administrative fix for a huge problem. Those incredibly long green card backlogs. Because of the per-country caps, people from places like India or China could wait 10, 15, even 20 years for their green card after being approved.
20.
Yeah. And for all that time, their spouse on the H-4 visa, who might have advanced degrees, couldn't legally work. Imagine the financial strain, the career frustration, the mental health impact.
Terrible.
So the 2015 rule allowed H-4 holders to apply for that EAD, that work permit, if their H-1B spouse had reached a certain stage in the green card process, either approved I-140 petition or their H-1B status had been extended beyond the usual 6 years. It was about fairness for families stuck in limbo.
And the impact since 2015 numerically has been pretty substantial.
Oh, huge scale. Our legal research shows over 258,000 of these H-4 EADs have been issued since it started. Just in 2025 alone, another 25,000.
And the economic contribution?
It's estimated around $5.5 billion added to the U.S. GDP annually. And for the families themselves, going from one income to two typically boosts their household income by about $100,000 a year.
Wow, that's life-changing.
Totally. Lets them save, invest, maybe start a business, takes away that intense financial pressure while they wait.
And the gender equity piece here is really significant too, isn't it? With 90% of H-4 EAD holders being women.
Absolutely. This rule has been huge for empowering highly skilled women, allowing them to actually use their degrees and pursue careers here, often in those critical STEM fields, healthcare, education.
It addresses that brain waste issue.
Exactly. Lost human capital. And frankly, the gender sacrifices often involved in immigration. And think about healthcare again, that projected shortage of 124,000 doctors by 2034. H-4 workers who are doctors, nurses, researchers, they are helping fill those gaps right now, especially in rural and underserved areas where it's hard to attract native talent. So it's not just about individual careers, it's meeting real national needs.
But this rule wasn't without its challenges. There was a long legal fight from a group called Save Jobs USA.
Right, a group of former IT workers. They sued, arguing DHS overstepped its authority in creating the rule and claiming it would take jobs away from Americans.
But they didn't succeed.
No. The lower courts consistently sided with DHS, saying the agency does have the authority under the law to manage work authorization based on economic needs. The Supreme Court refusing to hear the case, denying cert. That's the final nail in the coffin for that specific legal challenge.
So the program is safe.
It provides crucial stability for now. Technically, a future administration could try to repeal the rule through the administrative process, but that would be a long, complicated fight requiring public comment, and you'd see massive lawsuits from businesses and advocates immediately. It makes it politically very difficult to undo.
And the perspective from our attorneys on this.
They see it as affirming the importance of family unity, of inclusion. It shows how laws, when interpreted thoughtfully, can empower people to fully participate and contribute.
Which seems supported by economists, too.
Yeah, studies from places like the Cato Institute, the Dallas Fed, they found no real evidence that these H-4 work permits displace American workers. Instead, they boost growth, help retain skilled families here, and increase overall productivity. So this ruling really stands out as a vital judicial check against that broader trend of restriction we've been talking about.
Okay, so as we pull these four threads together, Ulukaya's incredible story of grit meeting opportunity, the ICE raids showing the strain of enforcement, the H-1B fee as a major policy hurdle, and then the H-4 ruling providing some judicial relief. What really emerges from all the research is this constant theme, isn't it? Immigrant resilience being tested again and again in this increasingly tough, sometimes contradictory policy environment.
It really confirms that U.S. immigration policy right now is stuck at this volatile crossroads. You've got aggressive, politically motivated enforcement smashing up against urgent economic needs, and then the courts stepping in sometimes to provide a bit of stability.
And this isn't entirely new, is it? Adversity shaping the immigrant experience.
Not at all. History is full of it. Our research touched on the Irish fleeing famine who then built our cities, the Italians who drove construction, the Vietnamese refugees who started countless businesses. Today's policy fights are just the latest chapter in that long story of resilience.
So maybe we should see these obstacles not just as negatives, but as things that actually force adaptation and maybe even lead to bigger contributions down the line.
I think that's a really insightful way to look at it. Ulukaya's story proves that amazing talent will find a way if even a crack of opportunity exists. The chaos caused by the raids, it forces a difficult but necessary public conversation about how we manage labor needs fairly and effectively. The huge disruption from the H-1B fee, it pushes the system, however painfully, towards maybe smarter, more merit-based ways to attract talent.
And the H-4 ruling.
The H-4 ruling basically confirms that supporting families, letting spouses contribute, actually makes the country stronger and more innovative, not weaker.
So the final takeaway from our legal team seems pretty clear. Policies that are empathetic, that are efficient, they end up benefiting everyone. They weave that individual drive into national strength. The big challenge now is for everyone, policymakers, the public, immigrants themselves, to navigate these policy storms with that kind of long-term view.
Exactly. It's a tough path, no doubt about it, full of uncertainty. But that perseverance, both from the individuals caught in the system and hopefully from those shaping the policies, that's what ensures today's struggles can eventually become tomorrow's successes.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. We've seen the clear economic needs highlighted in the research today: healthcare, construction, AI, you name it. But if the political focus stays locked primarily on restriction, on protection, without simultaneously creating clear, working, humane, legal pathways for people to come here and contribute, where does the next generation of American innovators come from? Where's the next Hamdi Ulukaya going to emerge? Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you gained a lot from this discussion. Please leave us a comment if you can. Additionally, you can support our channel by sharing it with your friends and family, helping us build this community together. Also, follow us on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. We would also like to thank attorney Chris Ingram and his dedicated team once again for researching and preparing this material for our presentation. If you, a friend, or a family member would like a free consultation, you can visit our website at www.breakthroughUSA.com and schedule an appointment. We'd love to hear from you and help you if we can. See you next time on Let's Talk U.S. Immigration. Bye for now.